Richard is my closest colleague, but he's also one of my best friends.
Richard Scolyer is my name.
When I got his MRI brain scan, some of my close colleagues were saying, don't be Richard's medical oncologist, be his friend. And I'm thinking, stuff that. I'm not using 15 years of my bloody hard work, like hard, long hours work, not to apply it to my friend. What are the rules here?
Unfortunately for me, I got one of the worst brain cancers where there isn't a cure for it. Bugger that. I'm not happy to accept that. I want to do something that gives me a fighting chance against this tumour. I'm in the surgical suite at Royal Prince Alfred Hospital where I've actually worked for 25 years.
Richard is an internationally recognised melanoma pathologist who has spent decades pioneering new treatments for melanoma patients.
We've taken everything, absolutely every bit of knowledge from melanoma, and we've thrown it at Richard's tumour.
I guess in truth, I'm anxious and nervous about how it's going to turn out, but I know I'm in great hands with a great team. The treatment I'm having has never been tried before in brain cancer. No one knew what it was going to do. People were nervous because it could actually cause my life to end more quickly. But when you're faced with a certain death, it's a no-brainer for me.
It is dangerous. It may result in worse outcomes. But there's a lot of hope for Richard, and I want him around. I want him around long term.
People all around the world will be watching very closely because if they can have success, it will revolutionise the treatment of brain cancer. It will be a breakthrough, a medical breakthrough.
I'm more than happy to be the guinea pig to do this. In fact, I see it as an opportunity to hopefully make my life better, but to blow open the brain cancer field and transform it for all brain cancer patients. Hi, it's Richard Scolyer here. Just wanted to update you about my recent cancer diagnosis. Since all this began, I think the day that I was diagnosed, I've been chronicling my journey. It's only natural to feel a little bit anxious about what the scan might show, and
He truly wants to make a difference. The data that's generated is going to be critical for the future for the field. He wants to leave a legacy.
I stand here today as patient zero in what may become the new frontier of brain cancer treatment.
Richard and Georgina are the co-medical directors of the Melanoma Institute Australia.
why be so open?
They're a really terrific team, so very complementary skills, one a pathologist, one a medical oncologist.
Collectively, the global cancer community needs to be brave and it needs to be bold.
I hope this has the power to transform how we treat all cancers, to think big and be courageous.
Dad hasn't slowed down since he was diagnosed.
Sorry about that.
It would be really easy for him to just sort of stop all of the things that made him who he is and put all of his worry into thinking about the cancer. But it hasn't stopped him at all.
I guess one thing I look back on is like I'm always pushing the envelope. I can't help myself. That I always want to do more.
Getting into training for a triathlon, that's Richard brought me into that, and I love it. You know, how fast are we? What's our pace? How can we get better? It distracts you from some of the heavy things that you have to deal with, and a bit of competition can be a bit of fun. In 2023, in May, we decided we'd do an aquathon, the swim and a run.
It was my first World Championship event, but Dad's done plenty. He's so fit and healthy and everything.
Richard was on top of it. You would not have thought that less than a month later he would have a seizure. We just did not see this coming.
Well, I remember when I was a kid, I'd come up here every day in the summer holidays.
It was a very Launceston thing because you'd always come here and there'd always be people you knew here.
Richard's my younger brother. We grew up in Riverside in Launceston, Tasmania. Our parents took us on lots of travel and walking within Tasmania and did all the normal things that people did, kicking the footy, playing footy, riding bikes.
Every summer we'll go to stay in a caravan park in Ulverston on the northwest coast. We breed our skin cancer basically by going to the beach all day, every day, and playing cricket on the beach, going for, 10 swims sometimes a day.
Morning, Missy.
This trip's the first time Richard's been back to Tasmania since he's had his diagnosis. It's been important for him to come down and see Mum and Dad.
Oh, lovely to see you.
Growing up, life was challenging at different stages. My mum had 3 strokes before I went to school.
Well, you look marvellous.
Oh, you do too.
She stopped being able to talk and couldn't move one side of her body properly.
First time I've seen you in person since my brain cancer diagnosis.
Well, it was a bit of a shock.
No, a bit. More than a bit.
She went over to Melbourne for a period and my dad went with her to support her as she was given intensive rehabilitation to try and get back some of her function.
See scalp? Oh. It's not too... No, it's not.
Healing up pretty well.
Getting pretty thin on top, don't you think, dear?
Part of it's just natural on top, losing my hair, but part of it's from the radiotherapy that I had.
We were living apart from our parents when we were 3 and 5. I think that the separation, probably Richard was younger and probably it had a greater effect on him. Growing up, we both learnt to be more independent and we really had to care for our mother.
Any preference to where we sit, Mum?
No.
Do you mind if we stay out of the sun?
Family life got back to relatively normal, but seeing what happened to my mum, it did have a big impact on me.
Nice to sit down.
But certainly impacted my passion of doing medicine.
I'm here, right next to you.
I like the opportunity to try and make lives better for people.
Don't look sad, dear.
Oh,
We've got him here now.
Well, I'm very proud of him.
Richard studied medicine at the University of Tasmania and then ultimately ended up in Sydney.
Good morning, Richard.
Morning, gentlemen. The tumour extends down into the reticular dermis, 15 millimetres.
Richard quickly established himself as someone with an interest in melanoma, and I encouraged him to develop this interest. So really, Richard, this is a pretty nasty-looking tumour we have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Richard is undoubtedly one of the top melanoma pathologists in the world at the present time.
The world's biggest melanoma research and treatment centre has opened in Sydney.
Basically. I joined the team in 2009 as a medical oncologist. At that time, there was nothing for melanoma, no drug therapies. Patients in my waiting room, I would only ever know them for 6 to 9 months because they died. And it was a rare patient who would survive beyond a year or 2.
It's an 82-year-old gentleman with an extensive history of multi-recurrent lentitis.
It was essentially incurable, and that all changed with the use of immunotherapies in around 2010.
So what's our opinion? Surgeons, head and neck surgeons.
With immunotherapy, we stimulate the immune system in a very specific way so that the immune system can see the enemy, that's the cancer, and kill it.
Okay, happy with that? Everyone happy? And
15 years ago, if you had melanoma that had spread around your body, the survival rates were terrible. Less than 5% of people were alive 5 years later. And now it's more than 55% of people are alive 5 years later. Seems to be a lot of nodding around the room, Georgina.
And that's...
During that time, the Institute grew. So did the drug therapies that worked in melanoma. So did the research program. And with all of that activity and knowledge in melanoma and cancer, we could not but help apply it to Richard's glioblastoma.
In May this year, I went to Poland, to Krakow, to lecture in a conference. My wife Katie came with me. We climbed up into the mountains in southern Poland, and that was incredible scenery. The next day, I woke up in the morning not feeling right, like I was about to pass out or even die. That's all I remember. I had a seizure and fell onto the floor. I had a red mark on my head where I must have grazed it on the carpet when I hit the floor.
They transferred him to the University Hospital in Krakow, where he had an MRI scan of the brain. Katie, his wife, rang me and said, there's a lesion, to which I gasped and knew, you know, when you have a seizure and there's an MRI with a lesion in a 56-year-old man, which is Richard, it's usually not great news. I sent the scans straight to Brinda Shivalingam and said, what do you think?
I just had one quick look at it and knew what we were dealing with. The biopsy definitively told us that this was an IDH wild-type glioblastoma, the most aggressive type of primary brain cancer.
I knew what that meant, that's certain death.
Just to come to terms with Richard, I knew immediately he had a bad tumour.
To be facing a death sentence, I'm not ready for this. I love my life. I love my family. I've got 3 teenage children. I love my work. I love my colleagues. I love contributing to society. I don't want to die yet.
It was definitely stressful, definitely a shock. Immediately, discussions started about, okay, what are we going to do about this? How are we going to move forward with treatment?
The survival time for glioblastoma just with standard treatment is in the order of about 12 to 14 months.
Standard therapy hasn't changed in 18 years. Radiation and chemotherapy is just to prolong life a little bit better. It doesn't cure anyone.
I started to hatch a plan and think about how we could treat Richard's tumour by using everything I had learnt and developed in melanoma to bear on how we might approach Richard's glioblastoma. So the plan was to give immunotherapy before the tumour is removed from Richard's brain.
This is completely contrary to standard treatment. Normally everyone says, quick, quick, we must remove the tumour as soon as we can. But we believe that by giving the immunotherapy while the tumour is still there, it has a better chance of developing that immune response.
IDH wild type, promoter TERT mutated, P10 deleted, so it's got the worst prognosis. Even though it's risky, and it is risky, I just give him a whiff of the idea and he went, yep, I want this, yes.
Hey, Emma.
He's truly first in the world. It is experimental therapy. We have no data on what will happen in terms of prolonging his survival.
I had some blood out of this arm this morning, so you want to do on the left? People were pretty nervous about it, and to be honest, there was quite a bit of resistance initially to get people on board. How long do you give it to go in?
Half an hour.
There's risks in having this form of therapy. You might get swelling of the tumour, and there's risks when you give subsequent doses that you can actually go into liver failure. I can feel that cool juice going in. But there's also upside risks that I might live longer. Thank you very much. And there's a small chance that I could be even cured.
Hello.
Hi, nice to see you. Yeah, it just feels right to do this. For me to be the guinea pig, for Georgina to lead this as an opportunity for us together to make a difference in brain cancer, like what we've done in melanoma.
So your liver tests were good this morning?
Oh, great.
Yeah. How are you feeling?
Yeah, okay, I guess.
If it wasn't Richard, it couldn't happen because he understands the risks of doing things differently and he understands the potential benefit.
Fingers crossed.
2 weeks after immunotherapy, he had a big operation to remove most of the tumour that was in his brain.
It's a difficult tumour to operate on. It is very infiltrative and invasive through the brain, and it sends out little microscopic tentacles of cells. That's what makes it very difficult or near impossible to surgically remove every last bit of it and get every cell. That's going to be my boundary. Okay, I don't think we need to go further back. So we know that the amygdala is fatter and involved.
Yeah.
So I think I will take that stuff, but I don't want to go back into the hippocampus, right? So
What you just said to me makes me feel more comfortable.
yeah.
I'm a little nervous about the operation, craniotomy. I'm having to remove as much of my tumour as possible without leaving too much functional deficit. When you're losing part of your brain that, I was scared shitless, to be honest, that I'd be left with functional problems.
You want to preserve Richard as Richard, but get out as much tumour as possible. It's stressful anyway, but to operate on a friend and a colleague is incredibly stressful.
Brenda's just texted. It is 2 o'clock. All done, just doing a final diagnostic scan and then we'll wake him up. Yay! Fantastic. I better just send a thumbs up. It makes me cry and I love heart and stars. Yep, good. Huge relief. The important thing is how will he be?
Ah, Amy, my eldest daughter, you are so wonderful. Can you give me a kiss? Thanks for coming in to see me.
To be honest, I feel better than what I did after the operation I had 2 and a bit weeks ago where I had a biopsy. I want you guys to know about stuff and feel proud and mentally I feel like I'm still on the board. My wife's testing me out with a whole lot of mental capacity. What's my BP?
122/65.
Perfect. What's the heart rate?
59.
Wow. Not as fit as I normally am, but not too bad.
Dad was talking normally, joking with us, interacting. He was telling me how I had to improve my resume about an hour after you got out of surgery.
I'm really happy with how everything went, and it's always a bonus when you wake up and you're perfectly fine.
All dressed up there, Georgina.
Yeah, how does it work? It's you. Same scar, hair's still there, fashionable purple. Can I take a photo? This is amazing. Oh, it's so good. You haven't taken the Richard out of the Richard.
The 2 people have supported me so much in sorting out my marriage. I got out of hospital 2 days after surgery. Not nearly as knocked about as what I'd expected. So thanks, Brenda. It's now, 4 weeks after I had that surgery. I've started on radiotherapy last week, and that seems to be going well.
We are analysing Richard's tumour and his blood and other tissues to try to understand what is actually happening biologically when we treat him in this different manner. Are you happy with that, Jordan?
Yeah, happy with that standing.
The big results that we were really excited with was a huge infiltration of immune cells into the tumour. That's really important.
Yeah, no, that's good.
That means that those immune cells were somehow activated in the body. Hopefully what they're doing is killing the cancer.
Richard is having ongoing immunotherapy.
Richard, we're doing vaccine number 2 today.
And the next stage of the plan is to give Richard a personalised vaccine.
Fine, apart from the bloody sore arm afterwards.
We look at what's specific to that individual person's cancer and try to get the immune system to recognise that specific cancer.
All done. Right, nice and tight.
Hey, the world's melanoma and immunotherapy expert.
It's a radical treatment. We hope it works, but it's such an uncertain area that we don't really know at the moment. And I'm sure even he and Georgina, for all their brilliance, don't exactly know how well it's going to work.
We're going to be checking your liver, your kidney function, as well as your full blood count.
There isn't a single part of Richard that has not been analysed and probed during the course of this treatment.
Maybe do a short course.
I think everyone is watching and waiting to see how well Richard does.
Yesterday, Christian and I had a discussion about creating a visual timeline. So we're trying to back everything up with science to show that what we're doing, if it does happen to work, why it's working. Or if it doesn't work, why does it not work? So that's the important piece in this. It's the science, because only then can we use this data to help other patients, meaning next steps, clinical trial. We have to get clinical trials up front. His drug, his vaccine, and then everything.
All the results we have so far are positive. I have to be honest, I am hoping that we could cure him. I know it's unlikely, I'm a realist, but I also know that these drugs are phenomenal.
So here we are today, 4 months after my diagnosis, with incredible guidance from Georgina, supported by the Melanoma Institute team and unwavering support from my family, for which I can never thank them enough.
Since Richard's diagnosis, he and Georgina have been on a roller coaster, really, trying to get the word out about what they're trying to do.
We had an opportunity, actually, we had an obligation to try something groundbreaking. We have generated in 10 weeks discoveries that would normally take many years.
We hope for nothing more than both of us being able to stand here again this time next year as proof that the breakthroughs we've outlined today and our calls for change have saved lives.
Richard has been travelling extensively despite his diagnosis. He's been to the States and accepted a top pathologist award.
I'm most honoured that I'm able to give you this award for so much that you have done to the field. Thank you, Richard.
And they've been announced as the New South Wales Australian of the Year for 2024.
He's being very brave and putting on a strong outward show of strength. And all his friends and colleagues are doing their very best to support him in that. But I know that he struggles a lot.
You could chop them up into dice and put them in the tabbouleh, I think, if you...
All right, you want to do that?
Yeah.
I feel a little bad that that at times I'm, irritable or my temper's sometimes raised. I think my personality before all this happened, I'd more reserved, and I wouldn't fire up about things so much as what I do now. Part of it must be because you can see this defined period of how much you're likely to be alive for, and I feel like I want to get things finished off. I want to get the tasks completed, and that's all aspects of life.
What time do you get home?
9:30.
That's not very late.
My kids are starting to get a sense of how serious it is. So I get that's hard on the kids, and they, at times, we have emotional moments.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. I didn't know that.
And so all the water was pouring out of them.
Mum has been a rock for everybody, including Dad.
Why don't you put them over there?
Even though she herself is dealing with so much.
Yeah, so Matt, you know you only turn it once, right? And yeah, so it's nice.
She's quite a private person, so I think sometimes all of the media stuff can be a little bit overwhelming. But Mum is also a pathologist like Dad.
Okay, I think just put it on that one.
And she's happy for Dad to keep pursuing it because he knows that it has the potential to make a difference to so many people.
Physically, he seems to be doing really well, but there's no doubt that there are toxicities to worry about.
These drugs can turn on the immune system that then attacks your own body. And the toxicity itself can be life-threatening.
My liver function tests have been playing up a little bit. That's not uncommon as I understand it from immunotherapy. We thought maybe the liver enzymes going high are related to my obsession with exercise.
I do worry that he pushes himself a little bit too much, and we've had many chats about this, about slowing down, about taking a bit of time to absorb this, and also resting your body somewhat. Just because Richard is so active, just a little bit of rest might actually help him.
It's a possibility for me that this could be my last chance to see family and friends in Tasmania, and that's part of the reason why I'm so excited to be here. Hey, Ben, yeah.
Good to see you, mate.
Yeah, you too.
Really good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for coming along. Our relatives have kindly put on a get-together tonight, which I'm excited to be going to. We went up to the gorge this afternoon and...
Rich is much loved, and there's a lot of people want to show him that love, so it's, it's nice to be down here and supporting Rich, and yeah, there's a whole lot of people want to give Rich a big hug, as we all do.
Hi Mum, how you going? Enjoying yourself?
The length of survival is a complete unknown at this stage.
God, no stopping you.
We know that, if he sort of gets to 6, 9 months, 12 months without recurrence, it's looking promising that at the very least it's extending survival.
Back there for us.
The most anxious thing is your tumour going to come back? And the main way that that's detected is through an MRI scan.
Back on again.
It's a rather stressful waiting period for Richard and all those who care deeply about him.
The longer you go on without recurrence, the more likely it's going to happen, because it almost inevitably does. So yeah, I'm certainly more scared about it now than what I was a few months ago.
We're so engaged in the research aspects of what we're doing. I wonder whether we've processed the implications if the therapy doesn't work.
Hey, George.
Hey, I just got news.
What?
Your scan's fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great news.
I know.
Yes.
So, no recurrence, which is good.
Ah,
No recurrence.
fantastic.
It's early days still.
6 months, not that early.
Yeah, no, it's good. So what we want though is this in another few months, another two or three scans.
Stay like this.
If it stays like this, then we can really
Celebrate.
just really celebrate. But at least we can celebrate today.
Yeah.
No recurrence. It's fantastic. It is
I couldn't
so
be
good.
happier.
Yeah.
Cheers. Great job,
Go on,
team.
cheers, team.
The field owes him a great debt of gratitude. What Richard's doing has advanced the treatment of glioblastoma generally in just a few months by what would otherwise have taken 10 years, maybe more.
Yeah.
I am very proud that it's going to make a difference for future brain cancer patients. Yeah, and yeah, what a legacy to be able to leave, even if it doesn't cure me.
We haven't been together like this since...
Ages ago.
Yeah.
And that legacy is huge. Bravery,
courage, thinking about others that may come after him. That is Richard to a T.
I feel very lucky to have him as my dad. I'm very proud of everything that he does, did, and is doing.
I might go to it too then.
There's only 2 tickets, buddy. You've been asked. No, it's 3.
Legacy is also about family. And I guess the example of the drive and the determination and the need to change things for the better, for the wider world. That's a legacy.